Hello, Ms. Janaki. My respects. So thank you so much for your time today, for agreeing to interview you today for my GIS leadership team. I guess can I start asking some questions now? That would be great.
Yes,
All right.
please, Sudharsan.
All right. So would you mind giving first just an introduction about yourself?
I'm Janaki and I'm a certified geographic information systems professional. And I have several years of experience in information technology and GIS. And I worked with a diverse range of projects. And I worked with small startups to large multinational organizations. And I worked both in public sector organizations and private organizations as well. And I have also been working as a partner manager for from our organization to ISRI. And so during my master's, I have pursued my master's in environmental geoinformatics, which is a combination of both geographic information systems and environment. So that is how I started my journey into GIS. And then on somehow I got hooked up to the GIS platform, knowing about the vast opportunities that this profession is offering, and the more industries that are adapting to this particular technology. So I have been a full-time director for two organizations. One organization which concentrates mostly on geographic information systems, and the solutions we offer to the clients in both public and private industries. And as well as I also have been a corporate trainer for that organization on GIS. And the other organization which I have been working with is on the environment sector. So where our job role would be my job role would be coordinating with the clients and coordinating with the ministry to get the clearances required for doing operations on the ground. Yeah.
Cool. That's actually interesting. So you said environment, right? Kind of combination of GIS and environment. So I'm just curious. So what kind of projects did you do related to the environment? Because that's one of my interests, environmental science.
So I hope you are aware of this environmental impact assessment, which we generally call it as EIS. So if you have to start any sort of industries, anywhere in any part of the world, if you want to start any industry, you need to get consent for establishment, which means you need an approval from the government saying that, okay, you are good to go ahead with construction of this particular building for facilitating this particular industry. Maybe you take mining as an example. Okay, so you got the eligibility for doing the establishment, which means only for the construction. But then once you do the construction, the next job is to operate that. So you start doing the mining, you dig out the mineral from that particular mining activity. So as such, you need to get something called as consent to operate, which means you need to get again approval from the ministries, concerned ministries, to operate and to dig out the mine from that particular mining industry. So once you start operating it, you are actually polluting the environment with respect to air, water, noise, and different other parameters, which means you have to restore that environment back to its normal state, which generally is not possible 100% that we cannot restore it back to its as is state, because you are already polluting the environment. So what the ministry says is, generally Ministry of Environment and Forest will be the organization who generally takes care of all this. They will say okay, now you got the consent for establishment, now you got the consent for operate, now you started working on it. Now you have to for doing that mining also, you need to get something called as an environmental clearance. Environmental clearance means the government should give you a go-ahead for doing that operations. So once you get that environmental clearance and once you start doing the mining activity, you are gradually polluting the environment.
I see.
Because initially when you start, maybe you start with the drilling, blasting and everything, and then gradually you start digging out the mine and you put the waste on a dump and all. So as such, you're polluting the environment in various aspects like air, water, noise and everything. So for this, the government says, the ministry says that you have to plant a number of trees, as green belt plantation. And it says like you have to do the sprinkling, water sprinkling on the road so that you don't spill up the dust everywhere. So there are like certain conditions which the ministry says that you have to follow during your operation. And after the operation also, you have to take certain steps to restore back the climate. So that is called as a post-environmental clearance, or we call it as environmental compliance. So in all these aspects, GIS plays a very prominent role, right from seeing which site is suitable for doing a mining activity, which we call it as generally in GIS as site suitability. And then you check whether you do a proper planning or not, how your mining should go ahead, and from where the mining activities should start. In this first year, how much of mining is going to be digged out, second year, third year and all. And that all has to be planned in your GIS environment, which you do it on a map, because you cannot physically show them everything. You show it on a map. And then once you do the planning, once you start activity, every year how much is actually planned and how much you have actually done it, whether you have crossed the limit or whether you are within the limit. And after this, your government says that you have to do the post-environment clearance processes, which means they see whether you are meeting the conditions as per the government rules and regulations. So this is how your GIS, this is just an example which I'm telling you, like how GIS could be used in the sector of environment.
That is really, really interesting to hear. I've always wanted to see ways in which, ever since I got an interest in GIS, I've been looking into more ways of how I can apply it to environmental science. I found I was doing a project revolving around food insecurities, where I've been tracking food insecurities in my community and also I've been trying to locate different food retail stores and farmers markets, so that communities can get a better access to healthy food, to prevent all this food insecurity problems in my community. So that's I would say my first experience in GIS, and I've been kind of looking into ways in which I could apply it to things like climate change or carbon emissions or things like that. Those are kind of some of my interests, other than computer science, which is actually my main interest. Environmental science is more of like I would say a passion that I really found since childhood. And I just wanted to that. Honestly, thank you so much. That was really interesting to hear how GIS can be applied to environmental science. All right, so in your terms, what is GIS?
So GIS is all about like capturing the real-time information and then visualizing that particular information. Once you visualize, you have to analyze that information, and once you do analysis, you have to interpret the results out of it. And once you interpret the results, the decision makers, whoever out there who is using this GIS system, should be able to make decisions out of it. So earlier, how this GIS is, it is basically a system of record, which means like they used to do the part which is required for a GIS, which they used to collect the data, they used to store the data, they used to do analysis, they used to run the results, but that is stored just as a record and it is not being engaged by the citizens, which means the end users who wanted to use that particular application. Now, gradually over the number of years, now the system of record has changed to system of engagement, which means the people are able to use that particular information and apply their day-to-day scenarios in their business environment and get productivity out of it.
I see. That makes sense. And do you think many people know about GIS, or do a lot of people not know that much about GIS?
I think before COVID, very few people know about it. But after COVID, I'm pretty sure that there are a number of people who are more aware of GIS. Why? The reason behind is like whenever you talk about COVID, there is a dashboard that is always popping up, which you call it as John Hopkins University dashboard, where they used to web scrape all the information from the hospitals and everything, and they used to display the COVID-19 cases that has been registered, the deaths and everything, and they used to show it in a very aesthetic way where everybody can understand like the insights of how it is being spread, and they used to show us the patterns and everything. So the number one thing, because earlier when I was studying GIS, when I say that I am learning GIS and I'm a remote sensing graduate, so people will used to say like, what is that subject? And I have to explain what it is and how it is useful. But after COVID, the scenario has drastically changed. Just to make them understand, if you talk to them saying that, did you see about the COVID-19 dashboard? And they said, oh, that is what you work on. So it is that simple nowadays. Now people are adapting to it. And the second thing is about the smart cities, where everything people are trying to digitize everything, and then they're trying to capture everything onto a digital environment, and then they want to do their future planning. So as such, in the second scenario, that is what people are more transformed and aware of GIS now.
I see. That makes sense. So do you think it's because, a lot of people started to know more about GIS during COVID-19 because so they started plotting COVID-19 related data with the GIS, or is it something like that?
No, GIS is always there, but only thing is people are not aware of it because they are not seeing the real use of it, or there are no public, there are very limited public applications where people used to interact. Now, in the COVID-19, people used to see, okay, in US, like which is the state which is most impacted with COVID? And what is the status in the last 7 days? Can I travel now? So people started using it, adapting it, and it is an easy to use interface for them to understand what it is, which was prepared by somebody else. So they actually tried adapting to it. And that is why they know what is GIS now, because they understand, okay, this is the data that is existing in hospitals. Now it is there on the visualization where they can physically see. And it is not just physically seeing, they're actually using it for their planning purposes.
That makes so much of sense now. I think I got a better understanding. I see. So also for GIS, do you need to, so in order to carry out the GIS process, so do you need to do a lot of coding for it, or isn't coding not required that much for GIS?
So it depends on how we are actually using the technology. So if we just say like MS Office, everybody uses MS Office, but there are like a lot of slide decks and all where we pay them and we buy the PowerPoint slides, or we pay some money and we buy some customized tools for Excel, because it is just up to our imagination how we can use the technology. GIS is also as such, like it is not limited to environment or to just electronics communications or to computer science. It is up to what you can do. It is just because it will be limited only by your imagination. If you think I can do only for this environmental sector, it is just limited to environmental sector just for you, because you are limited only to that box. If you think this can be used in health, this can be used in communications, this can be used in electronics, yes, it can be used in various other ways. And when it comes to coding, definitely when you want to integrate different technologies, the bigger technologies, when you talk about artificial intelligence or machine learning or SAP, Hadoop, if you're talking about a very big enterprise technologies, and if you want the more business aspects of it, then yes, GIS needs coding part of it. But if you want a general application, or if you want to use GIS and if you want to use it for your daily needs, then I don't think so. Coding is definitely a must for anybody to get adapted. It is in the career ladder. If you want to choose to be a developer, yes, then definitely coding is a must. But if you're not a person who is mostly into coding, then I don't think so it is actually needed.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, because I personally have an interest in coding. I just wanted to see if coding is really a big part of GIS. That said, I still love GIS. I've not personally myself coded that. I've not coded at all actually, and I just wanted to quickly ask. So thank you so much.
I think you are aware of this SaaS products, ArcGIS Online and all. So what they have done the coding, which is at the back end of it, and people are using that to create web maps and web mapping applications because of the web app builders that are in place, so that you can quickly make use of your data by creating an application and by sharing it to the public.
So it's just useful for the data science part of it. So then, kind of helping integrating the data to your IC. Okay.
Yeah, because most of the companies now they're adapting to the SaaS model so that more people can adapt to it and more people can start using it.
I see. That makes so much of sense.
Yeah.
I guess following that, what do you think are the best tools for beginners who want to learn GIS?
Personally, to say there are like lots of tools in GIS, but I'm a big fan of ISRI Suite because I have been a partner manager for ISRI organization on behalf of my organization. So, and since the beginning of my career, I have been working mostly into the ISRI suite of products, right from ArcGIS Desktop, ArcGIS Pro, then ArcGIS Fields, and then Collector, Navigator. There are like lots of applications which I have been working with. So my personal favorite would be like ISRI suite. Because it offers like different integrations, different technologies, and even a person who is not aware of GIS can easily start using GIS within a couple of days if he understands the how to navigate, how to use the basic tools. Either he can go with ArcGIS Online or with the desktop. So
Yes.
it is giving the flexibility for every user to get adapted to it.
I see. Yeah, I mean, so far I've only tried, I think, ArcGIS Online, and then I think I also tried Pro on my desktop computer. But that's all I've tried so far. And then some of the integrated apps, there's like there's Survey 123 and things like that. So I've only gotten, I would say, a miniature experience. I was just not too aware of the different kinds of apps available out there. So, but thank you so much for that. That's really great to know. I would say, let's see, how are you personally motivated to pursue GIS? I just wanted to know a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so I was, as I told you, I have done my master's in environmental geoinformatics, so which GIS is one of my core subjects which I have studied, but that is mostly into the theoretical part. And then I've got a placement, and then I have joined the TCS in India. And then when I started working there, I was I have been trained on .NET platform, but then I'm more interested to work on the GIS environment. So I made sure that I move into the technology which I studied. And then I started using the real use of how it is being implemented across different domains. And then slowly I got like adapted to the technology. And then once I have seen the uses of that particular technology and the vast opportunities that it is offering, and because of all these different factors, I thought like this is the place where I have to be, because you have to keep learning, and then you have to see that it is being used by the public and it is helping the public.
I see. That's really great. And I've honestly, even myself for that matter, when I first got my initial, I would say, exposure to GIS, so it's all about mapping, right? I knew they were already doing some kind of mapping out there, but I was still really wondering why, ArcGIS is used, for example. What are the different applications for ArcGIS? I think over time I've started to learn more and more, but honestly, that's really great feedback. I think now I'm kind of getting I would say a better sense of how I was say, or the amount of applications there are for GIS. I think I have a better idea now.
Yeah.
Let's see. I would say, okay, so my next question would be, what can youth do with the GIS for social good?
So like there are like a lot of initiatives like which ESRI has started, like whether it is a crowdsourcing of the data for COVID-19 dashboards to respond to the pandemic, to maintain the community, and to start supporting of reopening back the offices and everything. So there are like certain initiatives where either with respect to COVID-19 or with respect to global health or with respect to climate change, there are like a lot of initiatives which ISRI is being doing, so we can be part of that. And so apart from that, we can use that in our day-to-day lives, within our community. As you said, like you have been working on the food and security related application where you gather all the information and then do the mapping, and these can be the simple applications. You can always submit some reports, like saying if you see any kind of road damages or accidents that are being happening, and you can always report that. You can create an application which can be used by the public in a simple way, and they can report those incidents, whether it is crime, whether it is accidents, or whether it is any kind of responses.
I see that. I think I understand better now. Also, I wanted to quickly ask, all those integrated apps, they have Survey 123, all the data collection methods. Do you have any opinions as to which kind of data collecting method is the best? Because I've explored some of them myself. Survey 123. There's also like an image icon thing where you can press an image and then it will update this to some database or something like that. Do you have any opinions as to which data collection method is the best?
So I think now all the collector for ArcGIS and everything were not there. Now they are more concentrating to develop a product called as ArcGIS Field Maps. So that is a product which I recommend, because earlier there were like a navigator for ArcGIS, and then ArcGIS collector, and then different applications are there which are mostly related to the field. Now they have integrated everything into an application called as ArcGIS for Field Maps. So I think that would be a right product to get started.
Okay, I think that makes sense. Yeah, I think someone in the Israeli conference briefly, the speakers, I think they briefly mentioned field maps. I think I have a better understanding of what that is. So that's basically just plotting data on like a map, basically, right, of wherever you're concentrating on. So if it's somewhere in I don't know, California or Canada, or like a specific city or something, then you can just simply plot points here and there, right?
Yeah. So it is just like you can monitor your workforce, like whoever is on the ground. You can actually streamline the workflows. Let us suppose a person is on the ground and you have to tell him like where to collect the information. So you can put the points, and as and when you start putting the points, he will be able to see the information. So you're streamlining the workflow for the field workers to collect the information, and then you're empowering your workforce. And then you can see the transparency, whether the people are working or not, whether you're able to receive the data and how fast you're receiving the data. So that transparency is there in your information, and the real-time information, you're obviously gathering it, and you can quickly deploy it. The best part of it is you can quickly build a solution and quickly deploy the workforce to go onto the ground and to collect the required information for you.
I see. So that's basically just like a very quick method of collecting data. I see.
Yeah.
Okay. I guess that's all I have to ask. Do you have any advice for upcoming, I would say, new GIS people who joined GIS recently? Do you have any advice for them?
So if they're new, and I will let them explore all the different sectors in which GIS can be used, see the existing solutions or the case studies that has already been there, how people are adapting to it. And because rather than doing it everything from the scratch, people have already done a lot of things so far. So you need to see different case studies, understand what each organization is doing with respect to GIS, and then try adapting to that particular thing. And because you can get some ideas from different case studies, and then you try to implement all that into your solution, which can be a better solution than others.
I see that. That makes sense. Thank you so much.
Because rather than you putting a lot of research right from doing from the scratch, it takes a lot of time for us to get adapted to understand the technology and do it. But when you see a case study and understand how the problem is being solved with respect to GIS, then obviously you will have your own ways of how you can solve your problem, your business problem.
I see. So it's essentially just, and then eventually they can apply it to whatever they're interested in, whether it be, like even history, environmental science, climate change. Okay.
Yeah. And in all this, the other part which we have to take care of is the data, because if you're working with the US, Canada, or Australia, like most of these well-established countries, they have like a data which is being more transparent, which you can get it in the public domains and start using it. But whereas if you work for other countries, like developing countries, it would be very hard for you to get authentic data and to see like when it was updated, how it was updated, whether it is authenticated or not. So you have to make sure that you take the authenticated data and then you display it. So this is the second part which you have to take care of it.
Okay. I'll definitely take that into account. Data is definitely an important thing. In fact, I think 2-3 months ago, I looked at some energy databases where they had energy. So like carbon emissions, coal production, oil production, all of that. So they had data from different countries, but it was very limited. I think I only saw mainly from like USA and then countries like that. So I think I kind of see where you're going at. So data is not really available in developing countries.
Yeah, because your data is really very important that it is so authentic. Because if you're not taking authentic data, or if you're not taking the data that is in a right format, obviously your analysis will go wrong. So because your starting point is data. If that is wrong, all your analysis, interpretations, results, whatever the web application you make, everything is wrong.
I see. That makes sense. I'll definitely take that into account. With that, I think that's it. Thank you so much, Ms. Janaki, for your time today. With the interview, honestly, I think I learned a lot, mainly especially in terms of the different applications for GIS. And I think that's great advice for people who are going to be joining GIS. So thank you so much for your time today, Ms. Janaki.
Yeah, thank you, Sudharsan.